TSF Entertainment.
Yo, and welcome back to TSF Entertainment. This time we're bringing you BMF Season 4, Episode 1, and I got my homie Jack of Joys with me. What's going on, bro?
What up, though?
Of course, we gave it to y'all last season, so we back again this time for Season 4. Is it the last season? That's yet to be seen, but who knows what'll transpire between now and if there'll be a season 5. I'll save my thoughts as far as season 4 as a whole, and if there'll be a season 5 to it later. But before we get into it, Jack and George, your first thoughts?
My first thoughts for the first episode, I thought it was kind of boring, to be honest. But I kind of knew that going in, watching the previews. I didn't really expect too much of anything. Some of it was like head scratchers, like towards the end. I really don't know. I really can't. I mean, coming from Detroit, I can't confirm or validate some of this other stuff that went on. Especially with the Mexico trip, that was a little bit weird. But if I had to, as we usually do, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it maybe a 3.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
Maybe a 3, man. I
didn't think that.
What you think? What's your thoughts on it?
So far, like, I'm with you. Like, I get it. Y'all gotta embellish the story, but y'all kind of went too far a little bit with the embellishment of the story. And I get it. You gotta make it for for entertainment. But this, I was like, you look at episodes from season 1 all the way up until now. This one, I was like, okay, now y'all just kind of, it's almost like y'all just kind of like making stuff up. Like, where can we take it now? Let's see what we can write in to keep it keep the viewers in. I mean, I probably like the beginning of it, but then like slowly as the episode progressed, I was like, okay, it's not a bad episode until we got to the end. That's my biggest gripe with this whole episode. So I'd probably have to give the episode maybe like 6.5, maybe 7. So
I go, the beginning took me for a little, but the end really was hit me over. Like the beginning, I was kind of like, nah, it ain't no way they getting away like that. We go get to that. But then the ending, I just was like, nah, bro.
Yeah, I saw the ending and I literally had the stuck face as to like, yo, what the hell did I just watch?
They could have left that part out, but it's cool.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and get into and breaking down the review of episode 1, which is entitled Graduation Day. And the synopsis says, with Meech MIA, Terry manages the business independently to keep the cash flowing and finds himself at odds as he seeks to exert more control over BMF. So, as we just spoke about, the episode kicks off with them in Mexico, and we see T and Meech along with Loco, who's dressed in a disguise, running away, which I'm thinking is possibly maybe the Mexican army, because that didn't look like a cartel or anything that was chasing them, as the guy had on fatigues and was in a little army little truck and everything. And finally they end up getting away from that Mexican army guy, or could be possibly the cartel, and we see them laid out somewhere in the desert the next day, which we saw when they were previously running. It was nighttime, so we know that they ran all the way to the next morning, and they decide to just cop a squat somewhere and get some sleep. And of course, we still see them along with Loco. And as they get up, Loco tells them, we're about to head for the mountains. That's going to be the safest place for us to get out of here, is to head to the mountains. And during this process, while Meech gets up to go take a leak, he ends up getting bitten by a snake. Which, this right here, like you said earlier, this should have confirmed for me where this episode was going to go. But I didn't think nothing of it. I don't know how true this is because I've never heard this story as
Neither.
far as the BMF story. So I don't know if Meech actually did get bit by a snake in real life in Mexico with the plug, etc. Whatever. I don't know. All I know, this scene just seemed very far stretched. As that snake, which I could be wrong, it looked like a copperhead because that wasn't a rattlesnake because we never saw a rattle. So I'm thinking it's a copperhead, and we know that copperheads are venomous. So Loco leaves them to go get help while Terry stays behind to help Meech, and he wraps the snake wound.
Which
Oh, you know
let's
what? I forgot. I jumped. Excuse me, folks. Excuse me, folks. I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. So as we see after the snake bite, they jump to Detroit, as we can see, and we get 6 months later. And as we get here, we see none other than Terry. He's in the casino gambling, trying to win some money, which we find out because he's kind of struggling financially with the business as he's not getting his payment. And he meets with none other than this character here named Imani. Now I'm trying to figure out, like, is she going to be a main character or was this just like a scene? Because when she was speaking to him, her eyes kind of pointed over to the office as we saw Terry. He turned his head back towards the office. So I'm confused. I don't know if like we're going to see her more or
I think she
like.
implied that she was definitely going to be around the next couple of episodes, maybe because she said that she's the house, and she make her business to know all the important people that come in there and gamble, and she kind of like showed her flex a little bit when she looked over to the bodyguards or whatever, and they kind of moved as she gave them a little nod. So I think she's gonna be some type of player in the game. Maybe help Terry out with some money issues or something. Maybe become a love interest, but we definitely gonna see her again for sure.
Yeah, might be something that later on, yeah, like as you said, might help Terry with some money issues. And this, in a little bit, this almost kind of reminded me of last season, as we saw Terry last season in the, I guess, underground casino
Mm-hmm.
with what's her name? Henry, wasn't it Henrietta?
Mm-hmm.
That was her casino. Saw him
Yeah.
gambling again, but we know this time that he's gambling to try to win some money because they're struggling right now with quote unquote Meech. He's in the fold or whatever. And while he's sitting there gambling, Boom comes up to tell him that Jay Pusher has still not made any payments yet for the work that has been provided to him. And right here, as we see again, they're struggling, and he's like, you know, why is he not making the payments? We need that bread. And Boom tells him like, yo, he's not making any. And this is where Terry's like, okay, now I got to do something. So Terry's like, don't worry about it. I'll get it handled. I'll make sure that we get our bread. And he calls Jay Pusher on the phone. And this scene to me was kind of hilarious because it's like, like, bro, you owe him money, but you're in the jewelry store.
But you know what? It kind of shows like the respect level that they have for Southwest T was like pretty much non-existent. It
Yep.
was like what we do with our work is with Meech, and you kind of just you at that level because of your last name and because of the blood. Other than that, we wouldn't even be talking to you. So they don't really respect them.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? Now that you said, yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
And during the whole conversation, Terry tells him again, like, yo, we gave you the product. We need the bread. When are you go give us that bread? And long story short, Jay Pusher tells him, like, hey man, look, get it whenever. If you want it
So
that bad, you can come to St. Louis and come and get it. Which I thought right there, I took it as because we all know Jay Pusher's character in real life was a big he was like a big person for BMF for that segue for St. Louis, like the Midwest. So at first seeing this, I was like, man, don't tell me Jay Pusher about to end up having beef with T and it's about to go left. Cause I was like, that wouldn't, it wouldn't follow the story. But at the same time, as we saw at the beginning, I had to say to myself, you know what? Who knows? Cause they've changed the whole story around.
I
So
really don't know too much information on that one either. I do know like some of the storyline was, or a lot of the storyline was that Southwest T was living in, was living in Meech's shadow. Shadows. He was like Meech was kind of like the face.
Mm-hmm.
At Southwest T was just trying to remove himself from the shadows, and it just was hard for him to do. And then as we see later on that he eventually changes it from BMF to kind of like dissociate itself away from Meech completely. But this is kind of like show like he's giving us an introduction into a deeper rip between the two brothers.
Yeah, I was just about to say that because we know in real life that the brothers do end up having a whole rift between them, and it ends up becoming almost like two factions of BMF. Like you got
Mhm.
the BMF crew that's Terry's crew, and then you got the BMF crew that's Meech's crew.
Yeah, because I think Terry eventually changed his to like the numbers of BMF in the alphabet. It was like 3 and whatever number.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he pretty much changed, But yeah, I think this is what is introducing the viewers to is or giving us more insight on that cap they created.
Yeah. So Terry here, he's still talking to Jay Pusher, and Jay Pusher ends up hanging up on him. And also during this process, Boom asks Terry about Meech. As we all know, that Meech has been quote unquote missing, MIA for 6 months. And Terry tells Boom, don't worry about that. Like, just do what I ask you. And Boom is like, all right, cool. I'll make sure it get done. We're gonna go to St. Louis. We're gonna find Jay Pusher, and we're gonna end up getting the money back. So here we have I forgot the mama name already.
Lucille?
Mama Lucille. Excuse me, y'all. I was thinking of another character from another show, so I didn't want to say her name wrong. So we have Mama Lucille here, who is here with a member of the church, and she tells her that the pastor for the church has stepped down and that they are now interviewing candidates, and she feels that Mama Lucille is the perfect candidate to lead the church, and she wants her to interview to be the new pastor for the church. And we already saw from this scene, we could see that Mama Lucille kind of had her doubts about the whole thing. But what we do know is later on down the line, Mama Lucille ends up going to interview for the pastor, to be the pastor of her church. And he's back. Oh man, like I guess this was. I'll let you go with it, Jack. I'll let you go with it.
Let me ask you this: do you think they just kind of just added him in somewhere because it seems like a lot of people wanted Lamar back?
Exactly.
That's what I think. That's what I think happened. But in this scene, we see that he's actually finishing up his stint in rehab.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in true Lamar fashion, he's singing again. He's always singing.
Yep.
And he goes up and he kind of gives his him going through the 90 days and how vengeance it always won or captured him to the point where he ended up, or not vengeance, addiction. He had addiction to vengeance, and he had addicted to drugs and everything. But my biggest thing is, I'm gonna wait till we get to that scene, but I guess I need to know why we brought him back.
Yeah, so we're on the same accord. So they end up bringing Lamar back, and like Jack was saying, he's here in rehab and he's going through his testimony about revenge and everything else. But before we keep going forward, I kind of feel the same way you did. Like they just brought Lamar back because so many people, since he was gone last season, that's all we kept hearing was about Lamar.
They enjoyed the character.
Yeah, they enjoyed the character, and I can say the man plays his role well.
Yeah, for sure.
But at the same time, like the way they wrote him back in, it's like, okay, I get it. Like the way they wrote him back in, it makes sense. But then at the same time, it's like how you said, it was like they just found a way, in a sense, to kind of put him back in, because it's like we're already on season 4. We haven't seen Lamar since. Yeah, it was season 2, right? Yeah, it was season 2. Yeah, where Meech made him smoke the crack. And like We didn't see him all last season, and it's kind of like, in a sense, almost taking that step back. Like now, now he's back to being a villain again for BMF, and we already saw him be a villain. But either way, still, we love the Lamar character. And while he's here at uh going through his things, he's packing everything up to leave rehab. And I forget her name, but
I forgot her name. I just call her the Coney Island Freak Off.
I was about to say, yeah, I was like, if y'all don't remember her, I'm sure y'all remember the infamous scene in season 1. That was the girl he was with in the bathroom.
The bathroom with the ground and pound.
Yeah. So, Lamar's trying to get some things started, and she like, nah, we ain't going through all of that. You know what I'm saying? Plus, she stuff probably still don't work anyway from his injury, and she's basically trying to tell him and talk him into saying like, hey, you got another chance. You need to make the best of your second chance now that you're getting out of rehab. You gotta stay straight. But she also recognizes that he's trying to do things with her so that he doesn't have to leave the rehab house, because he knows he goes back out on the streets. It's nothing out there for him, and he feels like he ain't gonna do nothing but get in trouble, which of course, as we saw later on, that's literally what he does. And in the process, while he is trying to do things with her, the director of the rehab place comes in, somewhat catches them, and she comes and tells Lamar that he has a visitor. Now, this scene right here, though, I kept trying to figure out who was the visitor.
Me too.
Like, I thought possibly it was his cousin, but when we get to that scene, I explain why I kind of don't think it's his cousin. I'm thinking right here, this is somebody who we're not going to think, we're not going to be thinking about. Like, this is the last person we're going to think is going to visit Lamar. Because they never show him, and the look on his face doesn't seem like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's his cousin. It seemed like it's a shock look. Like, yo,
I wonder is it the daughter?
Oh yeah.
I wonder if it's the daughter, because the cousin already had an issue with him anyway. The cousin was kind of like, I want him out of my house. I want him out of my life. He had to apologize to the dog and do all the other type of stuff in season 2. So the cousin didn't want really nothing to do with him. So with the look on his face, I'm thinking there's a possibility that it's the daughter.
Okay, I can see that, and that's probably, yeah. You know what? Okay, we gonna jump back to that theory when we get to a certain scene. You know what? I think you're right about that. So we have here none other than Terry and Markeisha, as Markeisha comes over to Terry's crib, and she pretty much tells him that she wants to be in the game. And Terry keeps telling her like, yo, you ain't got to get in the game. I'll take care of you, and everything. But she wants her own, and Markeisha, which I can say that, she made perfect sense. She's like, hey, the same way. And I just realized I was calling Terry's right-hand man the wrong name all this time, because his name is not Boom. Because Boom is
is the husband. It's
the husband of it's the husband of Markeisha. So excuse me for that, for y'all getting characters' names. It's been a while since BMF has been on, so the character names are slipping me. But Markeisha, she tells Terry like, hey, this is what I want. I want to be my own boss. I want to set up stuff, and I want to move work. And Terry just tells her basically like, well, good luck.
Yeah, you're pretty faced with a little game, but you're not gonna get respected.
Yep. And of course, Markeisha gets mad at that. She has an issue with that and storms out of his crib.
And she be having these temper tantrums. I'm tired of messing with these little boys. I might have go find me and shut up.
You the one who did it. Like,
right, shut up. You know what I'm saying? You'll get your way, and now he's a little boy. Shut up.
Yeah, just because now, you know what I'm saying? And I guess I'm gonna have to go back and watch season 3 near the ending, because I still don't understand or don't remember the fallout between them two as to why like they're having this whole like to kick off the season, like why they
I know they was having some issues when they went to Florida. So I
yeah,
know
okay, that's right, because he did apologize about that, but
Yeah.
still at the same time it's like, what did you know what I'm saying, like,
So I think it carries over. But she kind of was like a manipulative, to begin with when they started dating. Whenever she didn't get her way, she kind of threw insults.
Yeah.
You're a little boy. I got kids. This is some adult stuff you don't know nothing about. And it was like she was constantly trying to prove that he's a man and he can take care of these situations. So she kind of used that and like as a manipulative tactic, and we see she kind of like continue it. We kind of like continue it here, which is I think Terry just kind of like, man, do whatever it is you're gonna do. Good luck. Get on my face.
Yeah, that's pretty much. He just like, like, all right, if you think you can do it, you know what I'm
Go
saying?
ahead,
Go
do it.
ahead and do it. I mean, he pretty much tried to tell him, you know, but she didn't want to listen, so she storms off, like we said, have a temper tantrum. So back here at the house, we got none other than Charles. As we see, he's back off a tour and he's working on some music and everything, along with Nicole getting her hair done by Wanda, which, if you all don't know, which is Terry's baby mother, and she's getting her hair done for her graduation, like the episode says, graduation day. And during the process of getting her hair done, a delivery guy comes to the door with a cake, and which that was surprised me, the price that he told her was $60. Like, and I was like she said, especially when she said to deliver for 2 blocks, and none other than Charles, she doesn't have the money, so Charles was like, here, I'll take care of it. Yeah, Charles like, I got it, I'll handle it. But as we also see that Charles and Mama Lucille, they still not on the good terms, as she says, this is my house. Like, now I don't need your money. She's not trying to take it or anything. So she's still allowing Charles to live there, but we see yet again the piggyback off of last season that she's letting it be known, like, this is her house. She's running things in the house, and this is how stuff is going to go.
Yeah, because Charles was about to answer the door, and she just was like, "Nah, I got it. This is my crib, and you ain't got to get up and answer the door or anything like that." But she didn't have the money to pay for the cake, or she had some of the money to pay for the cake, and she gonna hit him with some, "Can I pay you later?" Like, when, lady, you ain't gonna be able to pay, So Charles, he went, he went in his pocket and put the money out.
So after all of that happens, then none other than Terry pulls up, and Terry pulls up with a graduation gift for Nicole, and it's none other than a diamond bracelet. And I'm saying to myself, I actually agreed with Mama Lucille on this one, because I'm like, yo, everybody knows what y'all do, what you and Meech do. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much everybody knows your family. They know your mama, they know your sister, your pops, and everything. And it's like, you would think, like, although y'all trying to be discreet, like, everybody still knows what y'all do. Your mom and your pops, they still living in this house that y'all grew up in. They not driving fancy cars and all this stuff, but you give her this expensive and like big diamond necklace for her, and you don't think, and I was just thinking to myself, like, yo, I get it, like, it's your sister, but at the same time, like, yo, why would Terry do such a big purchase? And in my head, I felt like, which we see later on, I felt like he was trying to overcompensate and trying to show up like Meech, because that's something Meech would have done.
I think that's exactly what happened. Is he tried to fill in the shoes for Meech. She's trying to be the golden child, because everybody looked to Meech for different things, and so he just didn't know his role, his position in everything, and that's why they always bumped heads. But yeah, I think he definitely, went overboard with it.
Yeah.
But this BMF, they went overboard.
Yeah, because I was like, that's something Terry normally don't even do. So I was like,
no, you correct. That's right. That stuff Terry, like as we know, like how the story ended, that stuff Terry never really did. So
yeah,
that's
like
definitely got Big Meech's name all over it.
Yeah, and then of course Wanda like, hey, next time you want to buy somebody a diamond necklace, make sure you get your baby mama one too as well. I mean, I kind of felt it, but it is what it is. So in the process of them getting ready, Terry ends up lining up Charles, make sure his hair and everything is all lined up and straight for the graduation. And after being lined up, Charles asks again about Meech. And Terry tells the lie that he's been telling, which we know for 6 months, is that Meech is in Mexico on business. And Charles, asks him, is he okay? Me and your mama been asking about him for months. We still ain't seen him. We haven't heard from him or anything. Is he okay? Is he still alive? And of course, again, Terry says again, he's fine. He's just on business in Mexico. And I knew right then and there, I was like, okay. At first, I was thinking like it was something else going on. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe something like, maybe they got Meech held hostage. And that's why Terry is trying to get, the paper. Like that's why he was gambling. You know what I'm saying? Like he trying to get this paper because he trying to get the ransom, etc., whatever. But then like after this, I kind of figured that's when it clicked of the original story. I'm like, okay, this is where we seeing them they starting to beef, and this is why he's not really trying to give too much info on what's going on with Meech. And I knew right here that I was like, okay, now I know where they're going with the story for this episode. That like, right now he's not rocking with Meech. We still don't know why, but we know he was not rocking with Meech.
Right.
So Mama Lucille here is back at the church with the 3 board members to interview for the pastor job. And I'm going to assume one of them was a deacon. They end up bringing up her 2 sons and what they heard about them in the streets, the rumors and everything as far as her family goes. And Mama Lucille, she gives this heartfelt, I don't want to say preaching, but she gives what I felt was like a great answer. It was a great response as to, like, hey, yeah, my children doing this, but at the same time, like, who am I to judge them? I don't judge other people. I don't judge other families and stuff. I know what they're going through and whatnot. But I definitely knew, like, after that response that she gave, I knew right then. I was like, yeah, she gonna get it.
I thought he was gonna bring up the fact that Charles was smoking old girl boots, and everybody knew about it. That's what I thought they was actually going to bring up. To be honest, I mean, that's what I thought this direction was going to go. It was because of the previews, they kind of made it emphasis of putting that on, showing Charles, doing his thing with old girl, But I knew eventually that she'd get it though for sure.
I didn't think about it because this is a totally different church. She's at a different church now than the one that
right. That makes sense. Everybody knows good, her,
yeah. So everybody knows about that church, but at this one. But of course, just because, which I reiterated on earlier with the diamond necklace, like, everybody knows what your sons do. Like your name is ringing in the streets. So it's like giving Nicole that bracelet, and that necklace, and then we have Mama Lucille, like I said. The deacon asked her about it and, said it. But I say this to say that I knew right in there, just from Mama Lucille's response, that she was going to end up getting the job to be the pastor of the church. So here we got none other than Terry here at the restaurant. And what was they playing? I think they was playing, I believe here they were playing, I can't think of the card game right now. I think they were playing Space right here. Yeah, because he brought up about reneging. So as they're sitting here playing Space, one of their workers come in with a bag full of money, and Terry scolds him over his attire, over what shirt he has on and the shoes that he has on. And Terry says that everybody that works for me needs to be in uniform, which we see they all have on black and black sneakers. However, I was like, all of them don't, because if you look at and I can't remember his name, that's right here in the white shirt, I was like, he don't have on all black.
Sterling.
Sterling, yeah. I was like, so I didn't get it, but I guess maybe it was just, they all had to.
So that's why. But I think Sterling is still part of. I think he's an entity of BMF. But I think he's still the Puritan Ave boys. So I think they kind of mesh, because Sterling still wear his Puritan Ave chain. So I'm assuming, that he's still, Puritan Ave, just an associate, just a muscle of this entity of a BMF. Yeah. But like here's where the problem comes in with Southwest T. Meech wouldn't have said nothing. Meech probably would have been like, "Man, them shoes fire. What are you talking about, man? Go ahead and wear whatever it is you want to. You look good." Like Meech is a people's person. Southwest T is a person who he feels as though that he got to pump his chest out a little bit more because he's the little brother.
Yep.
He ain't got to do all that, and that's why it went the direction that it goes all the time. You don't like you trying to earn respect the wrong way.
Yeah. And Worker says, like, what are we in the army now? Like, everybody got to have a uniform, be up to code, and all this different other stuff. And he tells them that, just because you wasn't in uniform, I'm gonna dock your pay. And I was just like, bro, I'm like, bro, this is streets. Like,
that's what I'm saying. It's
like, but as Jack just said, we see how T is trying to make himself known and trying to make himself bigger since he's the little brother and whatnot. So we got Markeisha here, who is going to visit Boom, which I know earlier I gave him the wrong name, and I remember his name now. T's friend, right hand man, Hoop, is who I was thinking of. So we see Markeisha here. She's going to visit her husband, Boom, that she's still married to, which shocked me because I was thinking, like, you run around out here with T all this time, but yet you still married. And Markeisha kind of played both sides of the fence here in this visit with Boom, as she's like, I'm done with T. It's always been about you. We still married. I still have your last name. We got kids.
All this other crap.
And all this other stuff. And I'm like,
shut up.
But I was like, yo, you just told T.
Shut up.
Like, you went to T first and was like, yo, you trying to make a name and do all of this stuff. I'm like, this is the same man that had people almost take you out.
Yeah. Saint was trying to get, her situated, was trying to get her at T situated. And now you come back running because you want to be independent, which you're still not really being independent because you're coming off of one of their backs and one of their steam. So you're still not necessarily even being independent. And this right here was just like, this right here really pissed me off. I was like, oh yeah, she need to get situated.
Yeah, I was like, that's all it is. I was like, you just trying to, now since you couldn't get it from T, you about to figure out by any means necessary. And I kind of feeling like later on during the course of the season, we're going to kind of see her go back and forth between him and T to get exactly what she wants. So during while she's visiting Boom, she asked him about a former associate of theirs named Isaac. And she says, like, she's running out of money. All the money that they had is just about depleted. So, she needs money, and does Isaac still have the bread that he owes you or whatever? And Boom. She also asked about Isaac girl Kiki and everything, who was a side piece. And she wants to get the blessing from Boom to go holler at Kiki to get the to get the introduction into Isaac. So I guess that she can make her way into the game. And we see she goes to visit Kiki at, I think it was a government office or something.
Yeah, it looked like it.
Yeah, it looks like, that
Secretary of State emblem in the back.
Yeah, it looks like Kiki works for some type of government state office or maybe even federal. I'm not sure, but Keisha comes there and asks her about Isaac, what happened to their whole relationship and whatnot. And Kiki tells us that Isaac, basically, booted her, ran off with his wife. And, Markeisha gives this whole little, what you want to call it? I guess whatchamacallit speech, to amp her up, like some type
Mhm.
of, like, we woman, we need to do
Put a
this.
battery in her back. Yeah.
Yeah, put the battery in the back, like, we don't need them, you was doing this, you should be doing better than this. And
Understand your potential, queen. You need to go back to school, and we make things move just as much as they make things move. Real
yeah,
stuff.
basically just hyping her head up so that she could get what she wanted out of Kiki, which was none other than Isaac's number, so that she could reach out to Isaac and end up what we know later on down the line once we get to that scene is, just to make introduction so she could get her foot in the game. So here we have Nicole, who's coming downstairs, who's getting ready to graduate, and she's becoming the first graduate in the entire family, which is what they've made known. She's the only one who has graduated high school out of the entire family. Mama Lucille, Charles, T, Meech, all of them never graduated. So she's the first. They're extremely proud of her. And during this process, after Wanda takes the picture, Mama Lucille tells her how proud she is, and how excited she is for her to also be going to college. And of course, she says that Nicole says that she wished that, Meech could have been there to see her graduate, which, because we all know, which to me, since watching the series, that Meech has always been like her favorite more than Terry.
Mm-hmm.
So we also could kind of see how later on, which I'll get to in this episode, how the ties have all changed to like Meech becoming like the favorite over Terry. So after this, she graduates. They have a graduation party. Nicole is there with her boyfriend. Everybody's there having a good time. And Mama Lucille gets on the mic, says everything before they can eat, that she wants to say a prayer. After she finished saying her prayer to blessing the food, Nicole is making a speech who she's thanking her parents and everything. And once she was about to reveal some big news, none other than Meech pops up, which I had already saw that coming. I was like, he about to pop up.
I saw that coming too. He ain't with
Yeah.
no mess situation.
I was like, if he wasn't gonna pop up there, it was gonna be like right after or
Yeah.
something. I saw him coming. I was like,
And I saw the gift coming too.
I didn't see the gift.
I saw the gift coming.
But I knew he was gonna pop up. I knew it for sure. I was like, okay, he gonna pop up at this party at some point.
I saw the gift coming, but I thought it would have been something different. But I
Okay,
saw
yeah. Now that part, yeah, when we get to
Yeah.
that. So everybody's excited. Mama Lucille is excited. Nicole is excited. Charles is excited. Only person that was not excited was none other than T. T had the little screwed up face, and Mama Lucille, like, you're not gonna say hi to your brother. And I forgot what Meech said right here. He said something, but I can't remember what it was, to the effect
I don't
that,
remember either. I thought he just kind of just like waved him off, like, man, whatever.
yeah, he said Meech said something about it to his mama, just like, whatever it is. And during that, Meech grabs Nicole to take her outside, and as they're going outside so he could present for her gift, none other than B Mickey shows up. Now I did not see them introducing B Mickey back into the fold like this.
Me either. I didn't think B Mickey was gonna pop up right now.
Yeah.
Oh.
At all. Not the first. I figured we knew B Mickey was coming back, but I figured B Mickey probably wasn't coming back until like later on down the line somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
B Mickey comes back. He just wanted to show love and support for Nicole graduating, which we also found that B Mickey's wife, or was that his girl? Because I don't think they made it clear.
They didn't make it clear. I'm assuming that was his girl. I'm assuming.
Okay. So But we do know as they do, we also see his daughter who was in a stroller. It looked like she was on an oxygen tank, that his daughter is having health complications. So I knew right in and there they set up the story as to why B Mickey is going to try to get back in the fold with BMF and whatnot, which is basically in a sense to help pay for his daughter's hospital and doctor bills and whatnot.
Mhm.
And as he's giving her the gift, as he's giving Nicole like a envelope of something just as a gift, Meech's like, yeah, it's cool, she got it. And Mama Lucille tells him like, anytime you're around, please don't hesitate to stop by, come
Yeah.
see this and whatnot. And they go outside, and Meech reveals the big surprise, which is none other than Nicole having her own car. Now, you are just like me, Jack. 'Cause when I saw this, I was like, really, bro?
I thought the Acura Vigor was coming out or something.
I
I
was like,
I expect this not from Big Meech, not from Meech. Maybe this was a Southwest T-Move Vinny thing. I was expecting some BBSs on the joint. Like I was expecting the flash. I knew a car was coming, but I was expecting the flash. This ain't it. What actually is that?
that's a Honda Civic.
That okay, that's what I thought. I was like, that look like a Honda, but I ain't really.
Yeah, it's a Honda Civic. So I was just like you. So when I saw this, I was like, really, bro? I was like, this the gift that you give her is a Honda Civic. But
But
then at the same time, it had to click in my mind, like, yo, you know what? Like, Nicole is like the only good pure one. So it's
Mhm.
like, she's going down to Atlanta anyway to go to college. And it's like at the same time, he's like, I realized that Misha's thinking smart, like, hey, I give her this. She's gonna be kind of inconspicuous. Nobody's
Mhm.
gonna mess with her or whatnot. Although knowing that's my sister, it'll look like, yo, she don't have no dealings with me or whatnot. Cause she got this. Meanwhile, I'm driving around in a drop top Benz, but she got this. So it started to click it, which I watched like, okay, this
I,
is why
I,
Meech
I
this
think
is why Meech
Southwest
did
T
this.
was like when he saw the car, he probably was like, he did it again.
Yep. Yeah.
He did
Because
it.
remember earlier in I think I think it was before this where they were in the house. T says that like, yo, if Meech was there, he would have been trying to make it about him, and it's not about him. It's about Nicole's day.
Mhm.
She's graduating or whatnot. So of course we know T was salty about that whole thing because once again they kind of took the shine off of him, and
Mhm.
uh everybody's thinking Meech and whatnot. But long story, we see that T gets a call, and it's none other than Hoop that calls him and tells him that Jay Pusha is there at the restaurant. And Jay Pusha is there with the money. So he's completely caught off guard and shocked that Jay Pusha is there, already at the restaurant and the money. And he's like, yo, I'll be over there in a second.
No, I don't
And
think he had the money when he was at the restaurant. I think he already had gave it to Meech. But I think
yeah,
he was at the restaurant to let him know that he gave it to Meech and kind of further press the envelope of, yeah, I already deal with your brother.
yeah. But I think if I'm not mistaken, I believe what Hoop said on the phone was like, yo, he's here, like I guess to say like, yo, he has the money and whatnot. So it
Oh,
was like he didn't know yet. But
yeah, gotcha.
Mama Lucille, asks Meech, what's going on between y'all two. And Beach tells her, like, yo, I love you to death, mom, but what we got going on, this is between us right now. So
Mhm.
Um, I can see later on down the line they're setting us up for that. Mama Lucille and Charles are going to get in both of their ears to make them realize, like, lo, y'all brothers, whatever the hell y'all got going on, y'all got to squash that. This is family at the end of the day and whatnot. So we get over
Well,
here to the restaurant. Jay Push is just sitting
back real quick,
there.
fresh off of what you just said, if you remember in one part, I think it was it season two where they showed that they had got booked. I think that was a season two, and they was yelling at each other, or I might be. You know what? Never mind. I'm bringing a documentary into it. Never
Yep.
mind.
I know
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. As soon as you started saying, I was about to say, yeah, bro, that was a documentary.
Yeah, that was a documentary. Never
Yeah,
mind.
that was a documentary. So we got Jay Pusha over here at T's restaurant. And T comes in, flexing his muscle, trying to get his respect, and tells him straight up, like, yo, we need the bread. Like, I done gave you the product. I need my bread. You're gonna get it one way or the other. Like, we could do it this easy way, or I can break some
Take it in
bones.
blood.
Yeah, I can take it in blood. And during this process, none other than Meech pops by, which pisses off T. T's like, yo, don't let him in. None of that. But everybody's so happy to see Meech back, which again also shows T's jealousy, as Meech is so loved and a likable guy between both of them, because he got so much acknowledgement. Everybody was excited and smiling and happy to see Meech back in the fold. And it's like, it's not that with him. So Meech comes and tells him that, like, yeah, Jay Pusha gave me the bread, that's supposed to be for the entire organization. He paid me, why do you think I'm back and whatnot? And T just kind of goes off the handle, gets in his face, and brings up the plug. And I think right there, that's what set Meech off. I'm thinking, and I'll have to go back and watch, but I'm thinking that set Meech off because I don't think none of them knew who the plug was.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, because this is their new connect that they got while they was in Atlanta. So he's like, yo, what you doing? Like, you just put the plug's name out there like that. So at any given time, like if they wanted to, Jay Pusha, whoever can go set up their own stuff and run to the plug and do it that way. So I think that's what got Meech so upset, because as soon as he said the word loco, like, yo, what the hell you doing? And they end up getting into a whole scuffle. And I ain't gonna lie, for a second, I was like, damn, Terry beating the brakes off this ball.
Well, Southwest is bigger than me, so I can see you. You know what I'm saying? Like even in real life, so I can really, well, maybe not now, but I can see, how that could happen. Yeah, I didn't even really think about that. Like when he mentioned Loco's name, I thought it was just time for. I thought things just came to a head, and it's just one of those things just kind of had to happen. And if it was going to happen, it needed to happen in front of everybody. That's what I thought.
Yeah, like I said, I thought it, but then when I looked at Meech's reaction, because before he was all calm, he was chill. Yeah, he was calm and chill.
Yeah.
Then as soon as he said the word loco, he like, bro, what the hell are you doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? You just told him the plug's name. So that's how I took it as, and that's what it started all of this off. And like I said,
emotional. He's just not like, this is just showing, I don't know if this is anything with real life. Is showing his leadership, but this just show how different they are as far as being a leader. Like he wants to lead in power. He's not the person, like he's the person that go do this for me now. When Meech is the person to be like, all right, well, this is the game plan. If you can just go over here and handle this for me and check up on this and get back to me so we can figure out how we move from there. Yeah. T don't move like that. T is, I need you to do it. I need you to do it now. I need you to do it with all black shoes on.
Yeah. Just like you said. Yeah. And I think that's what T now is, just trying to show his dominance, and he wants that respect and the love that Meech get that he don't get. Yeah. Now, this was the only problem I had with this, like the whole scene was the continuity, because I have not seen Meech with that rat tail, I want to say since like season 1. And right here, when he was fighting T, it was back. So I'm like, wait a minute. Like,
I know T cut his, but I don't remember seeing him cut his. Like Markeisha had him cut his.
Yeah, but last season, I could be wrong. Y'all can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I don't remember him at all on season 3. I don't remember seeing him with it on.
I think he had it, because remember he had bought Southwest. He had bought the matching leather jackets him and Markeisha matching leather jackets, and then went to the skating rink or whatever. And they was sitting down there on the bench and they was talking. And so he looked at Southwest T like, "Man, you cut your tail? Like what you doing? She got you changing up everything."
Okay,
So
maybe
he did have it.
okay. So maybe okay. I gotta go back and watch. But then also at the very beginning, I don't remember him having that. When they was in Mexico and they were running, I don't remember seeing.
See, I gotta go back and watch from the very
Yeah,
beginning.
I don't
But
remember
I
him
know,
having
but
it.
I know
But
for a fact he said something to T about it when she popped when Markeisha first popped up and they had on the mentioned leathers. I do remember that.
okay, well, I'm sure y'all will let us know down in the comments uh exactly what it is. But to get back to it, Meech got the upper hand and start beating the brakes off of him, and everybody ends up pulling Meech off of Terry before he ends up killing him. And Hoot was like, "Yo, what the hell happened in Mexico?" So we know that whatever is the bad blood between them, which I have a theory, which I'll get to near the end. We know that it's bad blood between Meech and Terry for whatever went down in Mexico. Back here at the house, there's a gift at the door to which they all, to Mama Lucille, thinks is none other than another gift for Nicole. But come to find out, it is a gift for Mama Lucille, and it's to let her know that she did indeed get the job to be the pastor of the church. And they give her a robe to commemorate her being the new pastor at the church. And as she goes off, Charles and Nicole have a heart to heart about, how proud Charles is of her. Again, she's the first one to graduate. He's very excited and everything. He just wants her to know that, that he's proud. And we kind of get here some backstory on Charles' upbringing. As far as his father is concerned, we know that his father was also a musician, but ended up getting hurt during, a civil rights movement, getting beat by the cops, and that stopped him from, chasing his dream of being a big musician. And Nicole tells, Charles, never stop chasing your dreams. I'm glad that you're able to chase your dream. I'm glad that you're able to be a musician and that she's proud of him. And Charles lets her know the news. As Nicole tells him, you don't have to worry about trying to pay for school. And he tells Nicole, like, hey, you know, I was going to wait because I didn't want to rain in your parade, but we going back on the road. And don't worry about the money. You know, I'll make sure that, I'll pay for your schooling. And then that's when Nicole comes and says, I was going to announce this earlier before Meat showed up, but I got a full scholarship, so I don't need any money. And they both hug and embrace. And again, Charles is very proud of her. So we know Nicole gets a whole full scholarship ride to college. And here we have Mama Lucille, who's in the pastor's robe and looking at herself in the mirror. And it could have just been me, but I think when she saw herself in this, like, I think she felt like she couldn't do it because she didn't seem excited to put the robe on at all.
I kind of feel the same way. I think she took a step back and then just kind of thought about the responsibilities of what that robe means.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably just like, nah, I can't do this.
Yeah, as well as I think she also looked at it like, I'm a walking contradiction in a sense. Like, I'm about to be a pastor of this church. I'm about to lead this flock. Meanwhile, I got two sons who's in the drug game. I got an ex-husband now, which I'm not even sure if they went through the divorce proceedings yet, but like, my husband cheated on me and all this different type of stuff. So yeah, I think like how you said, she just had a reflection of what's actually about to come and the responsibility that's about to come with her being a pastor for the church. I kind of think it's not going to last long this season. I think maybe we might get a couple of episodes out of her, and then it's just going to be too much for her to handle, and then she's just going to step down.
I think we're gonna get it for a little while because think it'd be I think it would be a waste of a storyline only to just give us a couple of seasons of it. I think it's going to manifest into something else to the point where, I mean, not a couple of seasons, a couple of episodes. I think it's going to manifest to something to where she's probably going to have to step down to where maybe so there that one of the boys is involved in getting somebody situated and the church to find out about it or something, and it's just way too much.
Yeah.
That's why I think that that she's gonna have to. I think somehow, some way, both of those roads going to run into each other.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. So here we got Meech and T meeting up after their whole brawl and whatnot. Now, I was confused by this, so maybe you could give me some more clarity on this. I know that he's bringing him the money that Jay Pusher was supposed to pay him, which I get, but it was like I was still confused because Meech made a comment like, this is your bag, money, etc. And he was like, this is my bag because there's another bag. So I was kind of thinking to myself like, okay, we know Meech ain't moving work, and he says it's a bag of money. So at the same time, I'm like, well, if that's Meech's bag of money, why didn't he just keep the same money that Jay Pusher gave him?
I think what I think here is maybe that that Meech was collecting way more than what T was collecting, because what I got from it was that if Jay Pusher wasn't paying him, who else wasn't paying him? Like, it was to a point where T was gambling, trying to get some money up, to take care of whatever else Luke is he got to take care of. So I felt like when Meech got back, more people started paying, because of, or gave the money to Meech versus giving the money to Southwest. And that's how they was able to divvy up the money. I think he was just trying to stay afloat until people paid up.
Gotcha. Okay. Now that makes a whole bunch of, because I was just going to watch the episode all over again, but then I was just like, I kind of don't want to sit through the first episode again. So I was like, when me and Jack review the show, I'm gonna holler at him so I could get a little bit more clarity on that scene or whatever. I could have just went back to the scene and just watched the scene, but I didn't even think about it. But while they are exchanging the money, we all know Lamar rose up on them and just got the Uzi and just started letting off, just firing off. They run, they fire back at Lamar, which they miss, and they run to try to get away from Lamar due to what Southwest T told them to do. Like, we sitting ducks here, we're gonna die. The little shopping center that they're at is all locked up. Everything is all locked up, so they're not able to get away. And Lamar strolls up on them and is getting ready to take them down with the Uzi, to where both of them are amazed and shocked that it's actually Lamar, especially T. And Meech says that, I knew we should have took this crackhead down when we had the chance. And before Lamar can even get off a shot, none other than B Mickey comes up and shoots Lamar twice. I was about to say, because I was about to stop right here before we even went to the next scene.
My biggest thing with Lamar is, how many lives do he have? Like, how? You know what I'm saying? I get it. We like the character. We like a lot of characters. Writers have to stop doing this to us, because it is taking away the realistic parts of the show. Because I'm just like, okay, this ain't the first time or the second time that he didn't cheat it. So this is, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, this is it coming from the end of this scene. This is like round 3 that he's cheating again, if not round 4 for sure. That's 2. Where did B Mickey come from?
Oh, well, I could tell you that because he said it. My joint with this was, I'm trying to figure out. So here's my theory that I said earlier. Whoever came to visit him while he was at the rehab center, and that's why when you said his daughter, I'm like, yo, that's probably who it was, and that make perfect sense, because I was trying to figure out, you just got out of rehab, what pushed you to the point where you just had to go and find them to get revenge. So I was thinking, like how you said, that more than likely it probably is his daughter that came to see him, and once he saw her, that fueled that rage for him to go out and find Meech and find T, and them to take them out because because of Meech is dealing, with his baby mama and everything, and he end up unaliving his baby mama, and his daughter never looked at it the same. He blames them. So since you said that, that makes the perfect sense, because I was thinking whoever it was, that's who pushed him to this point to come back and look for revenge, because it just didn't make sense how he just rolled up on them. And I'm just like, yo, there has to be something that we haven't gotten to yet that pushed him to that point. And that's what made me think, like, whoever that was that visited him at the the rehab place was the one who lit the fire for him to go find them and take them out. I started to think Detective Bryant came in there and maybe had said something, put a little something in his ear.
But it couldn't be Detective Bryant though, when we know why.
Yeah, we know why. But we know somebody, and I'm thinking if we don't see it next episode, at least by episode 3, we're going to see exactly what pushed Lamar to the point to come back and find them to try to take him out. And when he does, as we said, B. Mickey rolls up, which to me was crazy because he shot that man twice in both shoulders. I'm like, I don't understand how you missed the whole headshot with, but we know the writing. We got to keep Lamar around. But to answer your question, Jack, B. Mickey told him right there, because they asked him, like, yo, how the hell did you? He said he had been following them since they left Nicole's graduation party. So that's how he ended up rolling up on them. That's how he ended up rolling up on them, take them down. They push him away. Like, yo, you got to get the hell out of here. B. Mickey again was trying to talk to them, but he pushed him away. We hear the cops, and we also see that once again, Lamar's gone. All that blood, Lamar's gone.
And why didn't they make sure, like they did the shoulders or whatever? That was a walk up at that point. Like after you let the 2 go, you walk up and you. Yeah. That's why I'm like, how many times do we got to deal with this with Lamar? I would have been okay. I would have been okay with that. It would have been like, all right, we gave the viewers what they wanted. Now it's time for us to take it away again. And in a sense, it's kind of like, well, why we even bring him back? So I understand that as well. But we don't need Lamar in this part of BMF.
Yeah, that's true for sure. We really don't. I mean, I feel the same sentiments as you, because I thought right there he was going to finish him off.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was like, nah, because I was like, at that point, it would have been absolutely no purpose
to bring him back.
If y'all gonna bring him back in the first episode, his character is already taken out.
Purpose, but we in this turning part of BMF, because we know how the real story goes. I don't think that we need that much of a villain, because they're gonna bump heads with themselves.
Yep. They're gonna bump heads for themselves. So Markeisha stops by Terry's crib after the whole ordeal, and she asks Terry, is everything okay? Because Terry got a couple of marks on him from the fight and from being shot at and whatnot. Terry says he's cool, and Markeisha tells him that she got something set up down with a plug down in South Carolina. So she wants her and Terry to go down to South Carolina to meet this plug, to make the introduction, so that they can start moving stuff through South Carolina. Once again, Markeisha tries to, which it still shows that Markeisha cares, but I was just like, yo, you kind of playing the role now like the same way you was doing with Boone. And I actually respect it. T was like, nah, you said everything, this is business. You said you ain't want to mix the two, so this is business. All right, cool, I meet you. And he opens up the door for Markeisha to leave, and of course Markeisha has a little attitude, but it was like, yo, he said this is what you wanted, so like he wasn't gonna overstep the boundaries. So I'm like, I'm like, yo, why do you have an attitude? The man, asking you to leave. Like,
I don't know what she want. That's the thing. She was with me. I don't know what she want.
so here we have Abe here at a grieving session counseling for the loss of his son. If y'all remember his son from last season, his son was Milton, which was the kid that ended up getting unalive during the shootout in Techwood. So here he's grieving his son, and he's still upset about the whole shootout in Techwood and his son being unalived, and he wants those who's responsible to pay for exactly who took him out, because the cops haven't given him any answers. Nobody knows exactly who took him out, and he wants answers for it. And we see none other than Detective Bryant there at the counseling session, but his name there is Mark, and he has on a hat and everything. And I said to myself immediately, like, oh, he's undercover.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, he's undercover, and I think this is none other than him to try to get close to Abe, to try to get some more information as far as like Meech and Meech dealings, as far in Techwood, and them moving the product and all that different stuff in that territory. And he's probably going to somehow, some way, even possibly, I don't know, maybe even use Abe to try to set up Meech and them so that he can take them down. Because as we know, he has been trying to take down Meech since day one after he stopped working for Meech, as Meech was paying him off.
I think that scene was like a combo meal. I think he was definitely there. He was definitely there to do a little recon, because that they went there or whatever. But he's also going through like the grievance of his kid, and how it happened, because they both they both tie into like the same group, because his kid took the gun from B Mickey.
Mm-hmm.
That was involved in the B Mickey incident, and now we got the Techwood thing that happened while they were there. So yeah, it's definitely a combo meal.
You know what? And now that you said that, I forgot all about that. That's right. So it probably is a little bit of combo of both. As far as him, he's there grieving, but he's of course given a fake name because he doesn't want everybody to know his name and what happened to his son, and him being connected in law enforcement, as well as going after Meech and all that different stuff. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So here's where the whole episode just goes left, and this like pissed me off to the point where I literally almost turned off the TV. So we see Meech driving back to Atlanta, and while he's driving back to Atlanta, he's having a flashback of him in Mexico. So we see him here still on the ground after getting the snake bite, which is why I said I know it's entertainment, and everything in the show is not truthful. They have to embellish somewhat, but this was just like beyond embellishment. As he's just still landed at this point, in my opinion, like Meech would have been dead from that snake bite. And Loco comes back with I'm trying to think of the record term for him, but I'm just going to call him a priest who ends up doing, which I believe is Santeria, to bring Meech back, as we see him put the chicken bones as well as some other stuff all over Meech's snake bite to bring him back. And also Loco gives the priest payment with T's watch as payment to help save Meech. And he does all of this stuff, like you said, with the chicken bones. He lights his fire. He says a few words, and Meech just pops right back up like it's nothing. And T has a huge problem with that, as he says, we're Christians. We don't do this type of stuff. This is, satanic and all this other stuff. And Meech is like, I'm here for a reason, and T is like, yeah, because God brought you back. And he's like, nah, it's bigger than that. and the priest is speaking in Spanish and says that like Meech is going to be this big legend and all this different type of other stuff. But we know right here again, T has a huge problem with this, because Meech still doesn't see the big picture.
I
And
just real quick refresh. I wanted to see like to make sure there's some continuity in it because I remember Loco saying most deadliest. So if that's the most deadliest snake in Mexico, it was a pit viper,
okay,
which is like highly populated in Mexico. And then I wanted to see like what was the like how do you go about the cure of it, and stuff like that. It pretty much said if you don't get no hospital help, is amputation.
bruh, that's why I was like when he came back, because remember when he left Meech and them, it was daylight. By the
Yeah.
time he comes back, it's night. And I said, yo, there is no way in the world that Meech would have survived that at all. I was like, it's impossible. Like I didn't know which now that you said it was a pit viper, but I knew it was a venomous snake. I knew it wasn't a rattlesnake. That's why I figured I was like, it's probably a copy. I was like, but I knew for a fact. I was like, that long, there's no way Meech would have survived that snake bite.
Yeah, and that's why I looked it up. I was like, it was daytime when he got bit. Then it was like if you don't get like almost immediate attention, you gotta amputate.
Gotta amputate. Not only that, shoot, the venom just running through his blood enough should have been to take him out. So
Yeah,
this
which
was
is
my
great.
biggest gripe with the whole episode. I was like, started off wow, and I was like, man, what is this mess? Then I was like, it's slow. I was like, okay, it's getting decent. It's getting decent. And then this is the ending of the episode. And I was like, man, y'all got to be joking with this. Like, I couldn't at this point. I couldn't take the episode like somewhat serious because I was just
Right, right.
now y'all just making it. I was like, now it's just like y'all just putting whoever wrote this is just writing anything on it. But as we see, T is on the side of the road, smoking, still having the flashbacks, and we see the big old so deaf billboard in Atlanta. So we know he's back in Atlanta, which we also know this is going to give him the big dream of starting the music business and the whole BMF music entertainment record label and stuff like that. So we get a trailer for this season, not for episode 2, but we get a trailer. We got some screenshots from the trailer, not all of it, but some that was kind of look pertinent and important. We do know that Meech and T, no matter their situation, they're going to have to work together to get BMF flowing. We see that they would, as we know, we're going to get the music side of BMF. Got an artist named Purdy, and they're doing things in the music business. And right here is where T says, "Cause see, matter of fact, like how you said, continuity."
Yeah, I just looked. He don't have to tell.
That's why I was like, that's why I just couldn't. But right here is where I can tell from this scene is where Meech is going to be very serious about the music business because Terry says to him, "We only got in the music to get a return on our investment." And Meech says, "No, we did this so we can keep the family together." So this lets me know this is also what's going to be the rift between those two because Meech wants to get in the music game real serious, and Terry is like all out against it and whatnot. And then here we finally see the Meech that everybody knows with the braids, with the cornrows. So I'm wondering if we're gonna get a time if this is the last season. I'm thinking like we're gonna have to get a time jump somewhere between it because right now, and I could be incorrect, I think we are still in what late 90s or so. Yeah, we're still in the maybe mid late 90s, and we know we don't start really hearing about the BMF rumblings as far as the music until like the 2000s or so. But we see Meech here just like his pops in real life with the long cornrows in the house. And this scene here, which I'm curious to see later on, who Terry thinks is a rat, because he mentions here that person is a rat, this person is a snake, so it has to be somebody with dealings with BMF or in the BMF clique or whatnot. Here is where they are still in Mexico. If you watch the actual trailer for the season before the episode came out, we see that Meech and Terry, along with Loco, are shooting at someone, which I'm thinking is none other than another cartel or so. So
Mhm.
this scene right here, they're actually shooting at somebody. They don't show who, but I believe it's none other than the cartel. We got Lamar here, who's still recovering from being shot in the shoulders as he's bleeding. At first, the first time I saw it, I thought this was like, I was like, okay, this is gonna be episode 2 because
Mhm.
he just got shot, and I was like, I wonder if he went to the cousin to go patch him up. But then when I looked at it, like just now, I was like, yo, he got on the white tee, and I was like, he only bleeding out one arm, and I was like, all that blood that was left on that ground, he would have more. So I'm like, this is probably just his wounds that's just bleeding out or whatever.
Mhm.
Not here we have Nicole, and you can tell in this scene right here that Nicole was getting into it none other than with Mama Lucille as they going back and forth. And I think, and I could be wrong, but this is a theory, and you heard it here first. I believe that scene right there is where she tells Mama Lucille that she is pregnant.
I was thinking she was either. I was thinking she was pregnant. She told her she was pregnant, or she caught the dude in the house, or something. I think it's either one or the other for sure.
I didn't think about it that way.
Because I remember he was in the house or whatever, or he came through like the window. Or it was a might have been an episode where he was at the house,
Yeah,
jump out the window or something like that.
yeah,
But it was no, you couldn't be up in the room and all the other stuff. It was none of that
yeah.
fellowship.
That's for
Right.
sure. But I think here, because as we know in the real life story, and if I remember correctly, that the sister does end up getting pregnant, which kind of derailed her dream. So I think there, this is where they have where she finds out and she tells Mama Lucille that she is pregnant. Also this season we see the infamous how they move work through the limousines, with the trap doors and everything, like how we saw last season, how they were moving it through those different vans or whatnot. But this season we're gonna see, and if you ever watched the documentary,
And
they were infamous for moving them through
this,
the limousines and stuff.
this is
With
why I
that,
think this is why I think it's the last season, because when Doc got arrested, it kind of put all the pieces together for the feds to go ahead and and carry out the warrants. Once he got arrested, we're driving in limos, and they found all that money in the limos because he get pulled over like 3 or 4 times. You
mhm.
know, one of the times they actually took him in. That's why I think this is the last episode. I mean, last season.
The only reason why I don't think, well, it is could possibly be the last season, but I don't think it's going to end the way we think it's going to end. It's because before 50 and Meech had that whole little ordeal and whatnot, like season 4 was already shot and done.
Mm-hmm.
So for 50 to say this is going to be the last season, like would they have said, I think that would have been made known before him and Meech had their whole little riff. Because the same way, like how we knew, about, with Force this being the last season and the other star shows that 50 have, I think like they would have said like this is the last season. So I kind of feel like this isn't the last season, but if it is, it's going to end, and it's not going to be the way that like it's supposed to end, which we all know exactly how it is. So that's why I kind of think like this is not the last season. I think it might be 50 is shut it down and this is how we get it, but it's not going to end the way we think it is. And here to keep going forward in the season, we also see that the Red Dogs are back in Atlanta. Um, and they're down there and chasing part of the BMF crew. And we also see Loco. We can also see another screenshot here of Loco and Meech and Terry in Mexico. And I'm thinking here, just from this shot, I'm thinking here, this is possibly what started the beef between them in Mexico. Because I'm thinking here that Loco wanted to take T out because we can see he's holding a knife up to his neck.
Mm-hmm.
And Meech, of course, he talks Loco out of it and whatnot, and T's probably like, "Yo, we need to get rid of him." But I think here it's gonna be like T's like, "Yo, this is business." I mean, Meech is gonna be like, "Yo, this is business," whatever. And T's gonna feel like, "Yo, you pick Loco over your own brother." Is how I look at it.
I could definitely see that, but Loco ain't really like T to begin with. Off rip when they first met, T was beating on his chest a little bit. So I think that makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm just kind of thinking like this is where we see like, because he's gonna be like, "Yo, like Meech is gonna do what he normally do." And he's gonna tell T like, "Yo, this is business," or whatever, whatnot. T not gonna be with it, and then T's just gonna be like, "Yo, really, you picking him over your own flesh and blood?" And that's what starts the whole riff or whatnot. Of course, we know again, B Mickey's back in the fold, and here we can see that he's about to unalive somebody as he has on gloves, and whatnot. Here we have Detective Bryant talking to none other than Meech and Terry in the hospital. And I'm curious about this exactly of who it is in the hospital, because we also see a funeral this season. Me personally, and this is just my theory.
Hoop.
So it's not Hoop. Hoop is there.
Yeah.
I had to watch this scene right here in slow motion. I saw a lot of people were saying it was Charles. A lot of people thought it was Nicole's boyfriend. I'm thinking that it's B Mickey. And if it's not B Mickey, it has to be somebody close to their family, because you have Terry is pouring something over. Oh no.
Yeah, like a bottle.
Yeah, he has a, you know what? No, I don't think it's Wanda. I don't think it's Wanda. It could be, but he's pouring a bottle. Hoop is right there. We see Charles is walking over. He's the guy in the middle between T and Hoop, who's walking over to Mama Lucille. We have Nicole in the back, and that next to the stroller is her boyfriend. That was another sign for me that made me think like, yo, that's their baby, because he's tending to the stroller. I saw some people say it was B Mickey because when we first saw his character with his daughter was in a stroller, but I'm like, yo, that stroller like this, like an infant stroller. That's not a toddler stroller.
And this is definitely, of course, is further down the line, because you see Meech has on a bigger chain.
And he got cornrows. Yeah.
So
I'm confused. And then I saw this and I was like, well, maybe it is Charles. But then again, I'm like, if they're going by the story of the actual what happened, I was like, Charles ends up going to jail behind this for a while before he passes away. So I was like, so it's not Charles, unless, who knows, they could have written in that way. But I'm thinking this scene here, like, it probably has nothing to do with the funeral. It probably has to do with something else of Mama Lucille breaking down and crying. It could be back to like what you said, as far as like her being the pastor and she just realizes too much for her to handle. I feel like we've seen this guy in like season 2 or something.
I think we saw him in Atlanta, I thought.
Okay. Or last season, but we know here this is probably going to be somebody that's going to be, I guess, another villain for BMF this season. Or also could be the plug from South Carolina that T is going to that Marquisha is going to introduce Terry to, but I have a feeling that he's going to be a known character this season throughout the season. And here we got T and Meech again, which looks like, I'm just going to assume they're in Magic City just because of the lights. They up in there at the club, and somebody just rose up in the club that they got beef with or whatever. And that's it. So I'm curious, man, for this season. I'm not sure how this season is going to go, but I can, like I said earlier, if this is the last season, if we don't, at some point, we either have to get a huge time jump for this to be the last season, because we all know how everything ended with them, and then Two, we're not going to get it. If it is the last season, we're not. It's going to end the way that, you know what I'm saying. Like it's not going to end the way everybody think it's going to end, unless they did a reshoot or something that we don't know nothing about. But I just don't see it, since this was already filmed so far in advance, and then this just happened, you know, with Meech and 50 and they whole riff or whatever, and then now he says just because you did this is the last season. So I don't think this is the last season, but like I said, if it is, it's just not going to end the way we think it's going to end.
That's definitely true because 50 always trolling anyway, and besides that, they didn't announce and say it was the last season. I don't think it's been official.
Mm-hmm.
50 said something, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's been like it'd be like, here's the final season of BMF or something like that. So we haven't heard that announcement on STARZ. So who knows? It definitely had to be a huge time jump because in one of the episodes, I can't remember the comedian lady name, but she's with Detective Brian, and they ran into the Southwest Tea House, where we saw when they swooped up Southwest Tea, and that was a time jump. So I would imagine that at some point we would have to revisit that episode again. We have to revisit that scene again. I don't know if we revisit it. It's kind of hard to do it in the next 9 episodes. They can do it, but it's going to make it is just gonna like deteriorate the build up if they do it like that.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I know exactly which what you're talking about. I think her name is Leslie Jones.
Yep.
Whatever. Yeah, she is playing it, and when they roll up the to the adult Southwest Tea. So, but that's it, folks. Please be sure to like, subscribe. Also, leave y'all comments down below on this episode of BMF season 4. We, of course, as usual, we will be bringing you pics of the different episodes as they drop, along with our predictions. We also, of course, as usual, weekly, we will be reviewing each episode. As always, any last words, Jack?
Nah, just make sure you like, follow, subscribe, share, do all the above. We're gonna get through this, and then just we try to follow up with some of the comments.
All right, so we will see y'all next week for episode 2.